Hello, and thank you for joining me today. This brief video will provide an overview of the digiCOACH Classroom walkthrough system, including a preview of the digiCOACH app and reports. My name is Brandon Mahorter, and I am Director of Innovation with digiCOACH. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's start with a brief overview and background about digiCOACH. Our system was designed to improve the academic and social-emotional wellness of our students. We are educators at heart. Our founder was a teacher and administrator here in San Bernardino City, California. And our team was composed of different educators, as administrators, and teachers with a wide range of experience. Our system draws from different researchers, including John Hattie. When in classrooms, we encourage you to look for high-yield strategies, things that we know that if you do in classrooms, we'll see an outcome of growth. For example, student-teacher relationships or classroom discussions here are two strategies that Hattie has identified as high-yield, both of these offering nearly 2 years of academic growth. To the right of the line here, we have some strategies that you can do at your campus. Things like maximizing feedback to teachers about their impact has just as high as an effect size as those positive student-teacher relationships. Getting teachers to work together has an even bigger impact, and the largest strategy that Hattie has identified is that collective teacher efficacy, getting teachers to work together. Now, when you look at the digiCOACH Classroom walkthrough system, we start up top with what we call focused walkthroughs, getting into classrooms and looking at specific high-yield strategies. During your walkthroughs, you'll be able to collect both observational and coaching data that can then be used during your collaborative communities, during your PLC staff meetings, things like that, to drive your professional development decisions. We think it's key then to tie that professional development back into your walkthroughs. For example, if you're sending teachers out to an institute over the summer to learn new strategies, we think it's key to reinforce those newly learned behaviors through your future walkthroughs. As you look around strategies and things that you can do to help grow and support that collective teacher efficacy that Hattie has identified as so impactful, it's strategies like these. So we believe digiCOACH is uniquely poised to help you grow that collective teacher efficacy, which we know will help increase your student outcomes. So what is digiCOACH? Well, there's 3 parts to our classroom walkthrough system. On the left there is the data collection piece. You're able to go into classrooms and mark things as observed or not observed. In the middle is our formative coaching system. digiCOACH includes strategies and coaching tips that you can use in an email to your teacher and help provide quick feedback for them. We'll get into that in just a little bit more here. On the right is our data collection piece. All of the information that we've collected from the first 2 components of digiCOACH gets uploaded to the cloud reporting system, so you're able to come back to your laptop or desktop to look at the reports. Walkthroughs with digiCOACH are done on a phone or a tablet, including Apple and Amazon devices. And the phone and tablet both offer fairly similar experiences. Here we can see the data collection piece, where we're able to go in and mark specific look-fors as either observed, not observed, or skipped. Something observed is saying, hey, I looked for it and it was there. In this case, task and relevance were marked as observed on the walkthrough on the left. We marked pacing as not observed, something we didn't see during the walkthrough, and we left interaction as skipped so far. Maybe it's something I'm still looking for, or that's not applicable to this lesson, so I can actually leave it as skipped to get omitted. The formative coaching system here, also similar between the 2 devices, is going to help you craft your email to your teacher. The strategies and coaching tips available at the top of the iPad there get added into the email below, and it's even going to keep track of which of those tips you've used. Before we get into a live overview of digiCOACH, I want to talk about some of our editions. We've created lots of different editions over the years, starting with our Classroom Instruction Edition. This pulls from different researchers, including Hattie, Popham, and others, to identify what's a good all-around instructional walkthrough. What are good all-around instructional practices or high-yield strategies we would want to see in the classroom? Each column we call a focus area, so engagement, checking for understanding, and so on. And within each focus area, we have 4 look-fors: task, interaction, pacing, and relevance. We've also recently released a remote learning edition that was created to support the online learning that was forced after the pandemic. This version is available for our users as whole, or it can be customized into other editions. Speaking of other editions, we have other versions available to support things like Common Core state standards. We have elements to support our preschool or early childhood, as well as positive behavior or PBIS type programs. Our college prep program is aligned with strategies you would see in high school sessions, as well as our career pathway edition that's more tied towards a career linked learning model. We often start with the blank template though and identify what's most important to you at your campus. pulling together different resources and creating a custom edition for you to use. CORE, our professional development partner, has also created some editions that align closely with their professional learning offerings. For example, if you brought CORE out to work on elementary literacy, you could use the CORE Elementary Literacy Edition there on the left to help reinforce those newly learned strategies. This essentially turns you as a school administrator or a site coach into a CORE coach, helping to reinforce those newly learned behaviors. CORE has 4 different editions at this time and is continuing to develop new versions. Feel free to visit digicoach.com and click on the Editions tab to explore all of our editions in greater depth. Let's take a live look at digiCOACH. To start a new walkthrough, we want to jump in and click on the New Walk button here in the top. Next, we'll select which teacher we're visiting, the subject of their lesson, and the grade level. In this case, we're at Kennedy Elementary. We'll be supporting Hilda, who's an English language arts teacher today with 3rd grade students. I could also make an optional observer notes here, maybe something that identifies the target of the lesson. I'll leave it blank for now. Let's jump into our walkthrough and click Start Walkthrough. At the bottom of the screen, you can see our 5 focus areas from the Classroom Instruction Edition. Right now, we're on the Engagement focus area, and you can see our 4 look-fors: task, interaction, pacing, and relevance. As I'm in the classroom, I can navigate by swiping left and right, or I can tap on the buttons at the bottom of the screen to jump ahead. As we're looking at the learning environment in the room, we can see is the room organized and reflecting current evidence of learning. If we see that, we simply tap on the skip button one time to mark it as observed. How about the procedures? Were the routines and procedures facilitating the learning? Again, we'll tap one time to mark that as observed. If the management wasn't quite there today, maybe we saw some off-task behavior and some effective management strategies would have been helpful, we could tap 2 times to mark that missed opportunity. I'll go ahead and tap that I saw relationships as well. Let's also look at checking for understanding. Let's say we saw good questioning, good wait time, and feedback all in the lesson today. How about adjustment? Was the lesson adjusting according to student results? Well, if there wasn't really a need for the lesson to adjust, that might be an area I would want to leave as skipped. That way it's not affecting my data positively or negatively. I didn't see the lesson adjust today, but it really wasn't needed, so I won't mark that as a missed opportunity. This information will power the digiCOACH reports, but is not made available to teachers unless you opt in to share that information with them. Up in the top right corner, you may have also noticed a little timer kicked in. So we've been in this walkthrough about 1.5 minutes so far. That powers some of the digiCOACH reports, so you're able to see which teachers you visited, how much time you're with them, when was the last time you were with them, things like that. All right, let's jump on to the next step and go to the feedback page. The feedback tool is going to allow us to craft an email to this teacher. I can tap in the email and bring up my keyboard and write my own personalized feedback, but I can also choose from this large library of strategies and coaching tips at the top of the screen aligned with the different look-fors that we observed during our lesson today. For example, if I wanted to give some feedback in the area of wait time, I can go in there and narrow my focus now and provide specific strategies tied to the wait time look-for. I can also narrow these strategies. For example, if I wanted to start with a reflective question, I could do that. And now you can see we have 2 reflective questions here. Let's go ahead and use the one about chunking information. When I click Insert, it will add this statement down below. In what ways have you gotten better at chunking information in your lesson delivery? Has it been effective? How? Insert, and you can see it's been added at the bottom of the screen there. During trainings, we often recommend 3 strategies and 1 coaching tip. Reinforce a couple good behaviors that we saw taking place today, and then offer the teacher 1 element that they might work on. I'll go ahead and offer another strategy here in the area of feedback, and I'll insert that below. Next, let's go ahead and give a coaching tip. I'm going to click on that coaching tips button at the top. And now my statements have changed into a suggestion rather than highlighting those good instructional practices that we saw. Let's scroll through here and look for something that we saw taking place today. Maybe redirecting students who responded incorrectly we observed. Note the language. We do our best to make sure these do not feel evaluative in nature. When students responded incorrectly, redirect misconceptions for all students by posing the same question to a different student. Go ahead and hit Insert, and again, it's been added below. At this time, I can tap into my email and bring up my keyboard where I can modify these pre-written statements. Maybe instead of saying a different statement, maybe I want to highlight a specific student that would have been relevant to call on today. Or I could also write my own feedback here. Great lesson today. Oops. I'm also able to use the microphone down here in the bottom to do speech to text. That doesn't work, unfortunately, when I'm recording the video here, but you're able to tap on that and provide some quick feedback to your teachers. We've been in this walkthrough for just over 4 minutes now. Let's go ahead and wrap it up and look at some of the reports. I'm going to complete the walkthrough and say OK to save this back to my digiCOACH dashboard. At this point, my walkthrough is saved just locally on my device. My last step will be to hit the Sync and Send button to upload it to the cloud and email Hilda. I'll go ahead and tap that now. At this point, digiCOACH does require Wi-Fi. However, up to this point, I haven't needed to be connected to the internet. This allows you to use digiCOACH completely offline without any reception or connection to the internet. That way, if you do lose reception, you're not going to lose your walkthrough data. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the digiCOACH reports. The digiCOACH reports are available online or through the digiCOACH app. Visit digicoach.com and log in to access your information. When you first log in, you'll land on the digiCOACH reports dashboard. We have 10 pre-built reports available down here in green. Our summary reports are going to give you a bird's eye view of what's happened across your organization so far. Comparison reports, we like to compare by grade level or by subject, or for district users, you can compare schools as well. The coaching reports are going to allow us to look at which strategies and coaching tips have been used most frequently. And the usage reports will show you which teachers have been visited, which classrooms have been visited most frequently, and who's doing the most walkthroughs. Let's start with our focus area summary. Again, this is a bird's eye view of all of the walkthroughs that have been completed so far at my district. Down below the bar graph, you can see that we're looking at an average score out of 342 walkthroughs. Up top, we can narrow that 342 walkthroughs by using these orange filters. If I wanted to look at data from just one specific school site, I could unselect everybody and select just Jefferson High School, for example. And I can use all of these filters in conjunction with each other. If I wanted to see just Jefferson High School, 9th grade, English Language Arts classrooms, I can select those and rerun my report to narrow down to, in this case, just 15 walkthroughs instead of the total 340. Let me go ahead and reload this report to refresh our data here. I can use further filters to look at specific teachers, specific time periods, including current days. If you're going out and doing instructional rounds, that's a great quick way to get a snapshot of today's reports. Or I can also look at a date range and see what happened at the start of the school year versus the second quarter, or what happened before schools closed from the pandemic versus after, that type of thing. And all observers are going into the same bucket of data, but you would be able to narrow down to just specific people so that you can see what have I seen versus what have you seen, for example. Looking at our actual bar graph here, checking for understanding was one of the areas we focused on during our walkthrough today. Out of our 342 walkthroughs, we're seeing checking for understanding about 62% of the time. If I click on that, it expands now to reveal the 4 individual look-fors, allowing me to look for trends across my campus, or in this case, across my district. For example, we're only seeing feedback provided to students during lessons about half the time when it was necessary, and we're only seeing the lesson adjust even less, about 39% of the time did we see the lesson adjust when it was needed. I can also dive into the learning environment, for example, here, and look and see that we're not seeing management as frequently in our classrooms. However, our relationships are at 88%, so we're seeing positive relationships almost every walkthrough. That's really exciting to see. Very quickly, you can see how easy it is to navigate between the different areas and look for those school-wide or district-wide trends. Now, rather than looking at each individual subject area, comparing or grade level, we can use our Look For Comparison report here to do that for us. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you're logged in as a district user, you'll have information like this allowing you to compare different schools. At a school site, you would be able to compare by grade or by subject. Probably can guess what this looks like, but I'll go ahead and refresh it here for us. And there we go. Now we can see what's happening in each grade level within the first first focus area of engagement, looking at task, interaction, pacing, and relevance. Here I can see that our first grade team in the area of pacing, we're only seeing appropriate pacing about 30% of the time. Pretty similar in second and third grade as well. But if I look, our kinder team is doing that really well. So maybe there's some teachers in kinder that I can call on to help share some strategies that they're doing that highlight those good pacing strategies in the classroom. Now I can also look at our coaching summary and coaching detail report to identify which teachers might be able to lead a good model lesson. Our coaching summary report here is the newest report built in collaboration with Cal State San Bernardino and a project that we're doing to help support new teachers getting their credentials, both student teachers and interns. This version allows for a quick overview of the data that you've collected across your campus, including the strategies and coaching tips that you've used. These green and orange columns are a summary of how often you've used those pre-written strategies and coaching tips. So digiCOACH is keeping track in the app of which statements you've used and providing that information as a whole in the reports. For example, we've provided strategies 67 times in the area of relevance, whereas adjustment, we've offered coaching tips 87 times. And that kind of makes sense. We're not seeing adjustment take place quite as frequently. Only about 40% of the time did the lesson adjust when it was needed. So we've been offering these coaching tips to increase that number. This other percentage, this focus of the walkthrough, essentially identifies of how often we've included that specific look for in our walkthroughs. For example, connections down here at 18%. It's a little bit on the low side. The other way to say that would be we left connections skipped in our walkthroughs the other 82% of the time. We only included it in 18% of our 342 walkthroughs. Now let's dive deeper into this data and look at our coaching detail report, where our coaching summary is providing us a total overview of how often we've used tips in each of these areas. Our coaching detail report is going to give us a view of which specific strategies and coaching tips were used. On the right side, we have strategies or coaching tips, so we're able to see what type of statement it was. We get a preview of the full language that was included to the teacher. In this case, it says to create opportunities for relevant language skills, differentiate your lesson according to English language development levels. And you can see this is in the area of relevance, and it's been used 12 times. I can actually click on that 12 and see that it was only used with 11 teachers. As you can see, Hilda here received that statement 2 times, most recently back in October 2018. On the flip side, I can look at strategies and identify which teachers are doing things well. For example, Sylvia here has received this particular strategy 3 times during different walkthroughs. So when I'm looking for teachers that I might be able to bring folks in to observe a model lesson, or I might include to share some strategies, I might ask rather to share some strategies during a staff meeting, Sylvia might be a good person to call on that. This report allows you to look at all of those strategies and coaching tips, and you can narrow them down using the different focus area and look for titles up here if you wanted to focus on just one specific area. The last report I'll show you is our frequency detail report. And this is going to show you which teachers were visited, how often you visited each teacher, how much time on average you're spending in their classroom, and when the most recent time you were there. In this case, we visited Hilda today, and you can see we've been with her 4 times, and the average is a little bit low. Real life data with digiCOACH tends to be about 8 to 10 minutes for classroom walkthroughs for administrators. Her average score is also a little low there, scoring a little bit lower than our school-wide average of 61%. You can further customize this report to include individual users rather than groups of users, allowing me to compare what have I seen versus what are the walkthroughs Chris Lopez has seen, or what are the walkthroughs that Mark White has done. That's a brief overview of the digiCOACH reports. We'd be happy to show you more online. Feel free to reach out to learn more there. To wrap up, I wanted to share just a few implementation outcomes that we've seen from schools and districts that have implemented digiCOACH. In brief, we've seen increases in graduation rates. We've seen growth in students that are meeting or exceeding the state standards on testing in both English language arts and math. We've seen decreases in the achievement gap or closing that achievement gap. We've also seen reductions in suspension rates, as well as increases in average daily attendance at district-wide implementations. We do have different resources available on our website to help you introduce digiCOACH to your teachers. We have a staff introduction PowerPoint that you can use that introduces the overview similar to that I've done today and brings a coaching view and really shares that digiCOACH is designed to be a coaching tool and non-evaluative in nature. We also encourage you to share that observation matrix as well as the feedback statements with the teachers so they can see how the system works. Next steps from here often involve bringing our collaborators and our stakeholders into the collaboration meeting, providing any transparency to the union as needed. And then from there, we would oftentimes customize digiCOACH, get you trained with a leadership academy, and come out and support you either in person or virtually with walkthroughs. And further, we can help dive into your data and provide additional recommendations as you dive into that information. Thank you very much for your time today. Again, my name is Brandon. I appreciate you spending a few minutes here with me. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit digicoach.com or contact us at 909-478-9595. Thank you and have a great day.